Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video for today. So over the past couple of days, of course, we've had some pretty green days across the board, but more recently we've got even better news for semiconductor names such as Nvidia, AMD, SMCI, and yes, even Intel. So we shall discuss everything that has happened over the past, let's say, 48 hours or so in this video. Right now, this is basically what has happened yesterday on Tuesday, May 13. All of these semiconductor stocks went up, went green, other than Qualcomm, because Qualcomm is dealing now with, well, Samsung and Apple maybe not using some Qualcomm products anymore in the future. Maybe I'll discuss that in another video. But as you can see on Tuesday, SMCI was up 16% and 8% after hours as well. Nvidia up 5.6%, Micron up 5%, Broadcom up 4.8%, KLA 4.6%, AMD 4%, TSM 3.7%. We go all the way down to Intel, which was only up 1.7%. So what exactly has happened? Let's discuss that in this video. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons, especially the subscribe one. Are on the way to reach 100,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for all the support. And if you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. So first up, this was a pretty big deal on May 12th. We've got this from the Bureau of Industry and Security, or BIS, BIS. Department of Commerce rescinds Biden-era artificial intelligence diffusion rule, strengthened chip-related export controls. On Monday, the Department of Commerce initiated a rescission of the Biden administration AI diffusion rule, while announcing additional steps to strengthen export control and semiconductors worldwide. The AI diffusion rule was issued on January 15, 2025, with compliance requirements that were set to come into effect on May 15. These new requirements would have stifled American innovation and saddled companies with burdensome new regulatory requirements. The AI diffusion rule also would have undermined US diplomatic relations with dozens of countries by downgrading them to second-tier status. BIS plans to publish a Federal Register notice formalizing the rescission and will issue a replacement rule in the future. Of course, we don't know what that replacement rule will be, but right now, this is basically, or this was, the three-tiered system that they put in place back in January. So Tier 1, trusted allies like Japan and South Korea facing no new restrictions. Tier 2, countries such as Mexico and Portugal, which would have faced export limits for the first time. And Tier 3, you have countries like China and Russia, subject to even stricter control. Now, of course, when this was put into place, well, all of the popular semiconductor companies and all of the other big tech players there as well, big tech companies, of course, did not like this move at all. Because again, this pushes potential companies, other countries, away from American technology, away from American innovation, and towards the likes of Huawei, for example. Yesterday, David Sachs talked about this specific issue in Saudi Arabia, basically saying, look, imagine if we did this with the iPhone, right? Imagine when the iPhone came out, the US basically, or Washington basically decided that, look, actually, this is some great technology that we only want to have for the United States, our trusted allies, and then the others, well, the others, we will have to see how that works out. Well, the iPhone probably would not have taken off, and the iPhone would probably not have been one of the most popular devices ever created. It would have pushed people towards other devices. Now, of course, you might say, yeah, but look, today the most popular devices are run on Android. Yes, that's true, but the majority of the profits does go to Apple, and the Apple ecosystem, the App Store and all of that is pretty strong today because that ecosystem was allowed to grow worldwide. Imagine if that was not the case. Well, I highly doubt Apple would have been worth $3 trillion today. Continuing here, Under Secretary of Commerce for Industry and Security, Jeffrey Kessler has instructed the BIS enforcement official not to enforce the Biden administration's AI diffusion rule, stating the Trump administration will pursue a bold, inclusive strategy to American AI technology with trusted foreign countries around the world, while keeping the technology out of the hands of our adversaries. At the same time, we reject the Biden administration's attempt to impose its own ill-conceived and counterproductive AI policies on the American people. In addition, BIS today announced action to strengthen exports control for overseas AI chips, including issuing guidance that using Huawei Ascend chips anywhere in the world violates US exports control, issuing guidance warning the public about the potential consequences of allowing US AI chips to be used for training and inference of Chinese AI models, and issuing guidance to US companies on how to protect supply chains against diversion tactics, such as, well, what we've seen or the rumors about, well, sending chips to Singapore and then those going to China. Now, why was this a big deal or part of the big deal? Well, because remember, a couple of weeks ago, AMD told us the following. AMD expects a $1.5 billion revenue hit in 2025 due to the new US exports restrictions and advanced AI chips to China and other countries. In addition, AMD has reported $800 million charge related to inventory purchase commitments and reserves tied to these restrictions, particularly affecting its MI308 GPUs, which is what they already told us when they reported earnings. Nvidia also told us the following. They project a $5.5 billion financial impact from the latest round of US exports control, specifically tied to inventory purchase commitments and reserve for its H20 chips designed for the Chinese market. So of course, if suddenly all of this changes, well, then you're not expecting 1.5 or $5.5 billion of a financial impact. I mean, for a company like AMD, it's a pretty big deal. And even for a company like Nvidia, that's a pretty big deal as well. Even though I think Jensen said that if this continues, this could have a $50 billion impact over the longer term, of course. And as I've shown you previously, as a percentage of the overall revenue for AMD, for just looking at 2024, for example, as a percentage of revenue, China for AMD is a bigger chunk of the overall revenue than China for Nvidia, which is why, well, AMD took, I would say, a bigger hit, although then again, sentiment across the board for the whole market wasn't that great either. But this is basically it. China for AMD in fiscal 24 was $6.2 billion out of $25.7 billion, whereas China for Nvidia was $17.1 billion out of $130.49 billion. And then if we look at Intel, that's even worse. It's the worst of the three. And Intel actually didn't give us a specific dollar number when it comes to the China impact. But out of $46.5 billion, 15.5 comes from China. That's more than United States, that's more than Taiwan, that's more than Singapore as well. And here you can see that in the last couple of years, well, Singapore did jump again in 2024. But yeah, China for Intel is extremely important, more important than Nvidia, more important than AMD, because as a percent of revenue, it is much bigger than the other two. Second place is AMD, and then we've got Nvidia. But of course, for all three of them, having actually clearer rules, not that extreme rules, helps them out immensely. Now, that's not to say that they suddenly can go and sell them MI350, MI400, or GB200, etc., etc. No, they will just be able to sell them what they've sold them before. Maybe now the rules will be more clear. If changes are needed to be made, they will know exactly what they need to do, but at least that market stays open. Moving on to some more positive news. So we've had partnerships from AMD and Nvidia with Humain in Saudi Arabia. So for Nvidia, the nature of the collaboration is a strategic partnership for AI factories. The key technologies are going to be GB300 Grace Blackwell GPUs and Nvidia Omniverse. The scale of investment is hundreds of thousands of GPUs and 500 megawatts. The strategic goal here is to build Saudi AI leadership, digital twins, and workforce upskilling. As for Nvidia, the nature of the collaboration, we actually have a specific number, $10 billion, multi-year collaboration. The key technologies are going to be Instinct GPUs, EPYC CPUs, ROCm, Pensando DPUs, and Ryzen AI. Like I said, the scale is $10 billion, 500 megawatt global network, and the strategic goals are open, scalable, democratized AI infrastructure. We have an official here announcement from AMD that was being made. So as part of the agreement, the parties will invest up to $10 billion to deploy 500 megawatts of AI compute capacity over the next 5 years. The AI superstructure built by AMD and Humain will be open by design, accessible at scale, and optimized to power AI workloads across enterprise, startup, and sovereign markets. Humain will oversee end-to-end delivery, including hyperscale data center, sustainable power systems, and global fiber interconnect, and AMD will provide the full spectrum of the AMD AI compute portfolio and the AMD ROCm open software ecosystem. With initial deployments already underway across key global regions, the collaboration is on track to activate multi-exaflop capacity by early 2026, supported by next-gen AI silicon, modular data center zones, and developer-enabled focused software platform stack built around open standards and interoperability. As for the Nvidia part, under the Powering AI Factories of Tomorrow, Humain is making a major investment to build AI factories in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with a projected capacity of up to 500 megawatts powered by several hundred thousand of Nvidia's most advanced GPUs over the next 5 years. So here again, the time frame is the same as AMD. The first phase of deployment will be an 18,000 Nvidia GB300 Grace Blackwell AI supercomputer with Nvidia InfiniBand networking. Then, when it comes to Nvidia Omniverse, Humain will deploy the Nvidia Omniverse platform as a multi-tenant system to drive acceleration of the new era of physical AI and robotics through simulation, optimization, and operation of physical environment by new human AI-led solutions. So here as well, for those that thought that, well, we're at the end of the AI cycle or momentum for Nvidia, well, think again. And the same goes for AMD, by the way. Now, after that, or before that, well, we also had this announcement. Today in Saudi Arabia, President Donald Trump announced Saudi Arabia's $600 billion commitment to invest in the United States, building economic ties that will endure for generations to come. The first deals under the announcement strengthened our energy security, defense industry, technology leadership, and access to global infrastructure and critical minerals. The following represent just a few of many transformative deals secured in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabian Data Vault is moving forward with plans to invest $20 billion in AI data centers and energy infrastructure in the United States. I believe with Data Vault, SMCI has reached a deal there, which is why the stock went up so much. Google, Data Vault, Oracle, Salesforce, AMD, and Uber are committing to invest $80 billion in cutting-edge transformative technologies in both countries. Additional major exports include GE Vernova's gas turbines and energy solutions totaling $14.2 billion and Boeing 737-8 passenger aircraft for heavy lease totaling $4.8 billion. You've probably also seen that Elon Musk was there, talked about Starlink, talked about robotaxis, he talked about robots. So yeah, there's definitely quite a lot of announcements that have been happening in the last 24 hours. Don't forget that Saudi Arabia is also getting ready, although there's still some time, getting ready to host the FIFA World Cup, I believe, starting early 2030s or so. So when that will happen, I already predicted there's going to be huge fleets of humanoid robots, of robotaxis, maybe eVTOLs there as well. I do think it's going to be quite something. Now, whether that's going to be in the summer or the winter, that's already not in my control. But all in all, pretty good news, good announcements across the board for all of these semiconductor players. I think change is good, especially from where we're coming, right? Huge restrictions, nothing is really clear. You cannot sell here, you cannot sell there. Doesn't make any sense. So companies like Nvidia, AMD, Intel, probably ASML, and all of those are pretty happy with the changes that are being made right now. Again, it's not free for all. There are still going to be some restrictions, but at least things are getting a bit clearer and they can still do their business, and American technology can be exported around the globe instead of being put into a corner and then pushing others towards other countries' technologies. And so all in all, that's about it. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons. I might go live later today, so stay tuned for that. Hit all the buttons and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.